How is the vaccine decreasing spread when vaccinated people are still catching and spreading COVID? I regret posting this question. People are messaging me telling me I don't belong in my profession and coming for me for supposedly being anti-vax when I really was just trying to find ways to answer this question to people who are anti-vax that I see come in and out of my hospital. I really thought this place would welcome any and all questions without any hate or ridicule. I'm not the best with explaining things and I suck at arguing and debating. I was just trying to really find the words. Thanks to those who have answered in a kind, informative, and positive way. In order to spread a virus, you must catch it and then replicate enough virus particles in your body that it comes out in your sweat, saliva, breath. However, it spreads. The vaccine decreases the spread by giving the body a tool to fight the virus so it replicates less. So for a no-vaccinated person, they might get infected, produce 100 billion viruses and cough a lot. Those virus particles ride on the cough and spread to someone else. Meanwhile, a vaccinated person gets infected. But because of their superior immune protection, the virus is only able to replicate 1 billion times before it's destroyed. And thus it will spread much less. Duration. Vaccinated people fight off the virus faster, making them contagious for a shorter period of time, and experience symptoms far less severe. It's a double-edged sword though, since most people have become complacent after getting a vaccine, so they drop their safety measures and spread that shit far and wide. If you want a legitimate, hardcore science answer, you need to look into affinity. Specifically, the body's immune system's affinity to SARS-CoV. Each strain will be different due to it being a percentage of how strong the connection is between antibodies and antigen at hand. The vaccine gives you antibodies to the relevant strains produced. However, this was before Omicron was a thing, and so our vaccines give us the ability to produce the white blood cells necessary to produce a high affinity to these antigens, thus allowing a quicker and more effective immune response. Whereas, the alternative would be to get the virus without a vaccine and having to produce antibodies from scratch that will eventually catch up in affinity if you live. These same vaccines were not produced for Omicron per se, and so their ability to bind affinity and help the body recognize a foreign element is reduced compared to Delta and Alpha strains. This all has to do with how cells communicate to each other. And the easiest way I've found to explain that is through a key and lock mechanism. One side, either the body or the virus, will have a key-like structure that inserts itself into the proper lock. Once that happens and is accepted, then communication happens. And in this case, viral replication. This is also common in the flu vaccine. When I was taught about the flu and flu vaccine in immunology, there were 4 epitopes, spikes, or keys, that needed to be addressed, with a new epitope each year. Which is why we have a yearly flu vaccine, because each year, you're reduced to 3/4 of the spikes for protection, while the new spike being unrecognized by your body. Give it another year and you'd have protection for 2/4. This is why it's helpful to get it yearly. It's all about probability. Here's a parallel. You are not allowed to drive drunk, because you might get in a wreck and kill somebody. Driving sober doesn't prevent you from getting in a wreck. It just decreases the odds. Same thing with the COVID vax. It won't prevent you from spreading it, but it decreases the odds. I thought that the vaccine didn't actually reduce the transmission rate, but instead severely mitigated the symptoms with the goal of reducing hospitalization. This may be incorrect though. It's not an all or nothing game. the vaccine significantly lowers the likelihood of both transmission and of the symptoms if you do get it. Everyone I know personally who is currently diagnosed with COVID is triple vaxxed. They are having mild cases. While I believe the science that it helps reduce serious symptoms, I will also add that when I caught COVID unvaccinated last year, it was the most mild illness I have ever had. So people are having mild cases unvaccinated too. It is not decreasing spread. It's simply decreasing the number of hospitalizations needed. Where's the animated video with the cell that put on virus disguise goes about annoying the fuck out of healthy cells in the body, so they beat the shit out of it, and when actual virus lands on the body, the cells remember it and absolutely fucks it? It mainly has to do with keeping the hospitals from being taxed beyond its capacity to care for the very sick and those that are dying. If they keep the number of severely sick people out of the ICU, they are able to assist patients better. They are stretched so thin and overworked so much it's best to not strain the system. Vaccine also keeps the death toll down. You may get sick, but I'm sure it's better than slowly dying from having your lungs wallow in its own juices, robbing you of your life precious. The current vaccine was designed for the original coronavirus and Delta. It was not designed for the Omicron. It reduces the viral load in your system. The virus has to have enough of itself to be spread. Fair question. At this point, COVID variants have mutated so much. The primary advantage of vaccines seems to be reduced severe outcomes like hospitalizations or death. That alone is the only argument you need to remember. The number of people in ICUs and dying are overwhelmingly comprised of non-vaccinated or semi-vaccinated people. The vaccines have been overtaken in terms of stopping transmission due to the rapid mutations, but you are still way better off with them than without them. I asked almost the same question, and for the same reasons on our Vax Happened. I got reported and temporarily banned for spreading false COVID vaccine information. I'm not doctor nor anything medical related. However, Israel is 96% vaccinated and it's still spreading like wildfire there. I think the vaccines only prevent you from dying or getting seriously ill. Just my opinion. First of all, I'm sorry that you're getting so much hate. People have this tribe mentality that others either agree with their views or they hate them and feel justified in treating them however, since they're right. With that being said, to try and answer your question from my non-professional understanding, it makes it less likely that COVID will be transmitted to you. Also, that if you do get it, it will be much less severe and likely asymptomatic but can still be transmitted to others. So yes, it technically lessens the spread, but it seems the main focus is if you get the vaccine, you almost definitely won't die or be hospitalized from COVID, assuming you don't have an underlying condition. Before people hop on my back to I'm vaxxed and boosted and IDC what you do with your body. Get vaxxed or don't. Just quit hating on others for their choice. Everyone is doing what they believe to be right, and just because someone thinks different isn't a right to treat them badly. How is the vaccine decreasing spread when vaccinated people are still catching and spreading COVID? It's not. Because the idea behind this vaccine is to mitigate the harmful effects, not stop spreading. Maybe to a small degree. Masks, disinfectant, and generally being not a bad person will stop the spread. Wiping your hand on your nose and touching things, or coughing in public without covering, sneezing and so on. That's bad, and you'd be the reason people catch things. Being sanitary is the #1 goal here. The vaccine is decreasing the death rates of those vaccinated compared to those unvaccinated. Overwhelmingly and statistically, a vaccine is not a prophylactic, complete shield. It is more of an immunological analgesic that reduces symptoms, illness and death for those who contract COVID. A flu shot, for the influenza virus, does not halt the spread. It lessens the severity and symptoms that could cause death. You can also spread the common cold and not get symptoms, because the common cold is a virus.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epic Ericast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.